On July the 30th of 2022, male model Bruno Krupp was speeding on a motorbike through the neighborhood of Barra de Tijuca in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. The 25-year-old, who didn't have a license, was captured on surveillance cameras racing down Lucio Costa Avenue. Simultaneously, teenager Jao Cardim and his mother Mariana were leaving a birthday party. They intended to take a short walk on the beach before heading home. As they were crossing the street, Krupp plowed into Jao. Some media outlets reported that the impact occurred while the motorbike was traveling at 90 miles per hour. Part of the boy's left leg was violently torn off and launched roughly 50 yards. He was subsequently pronounced dead in a local hospital. Krupp was treated for injuries that weren't deemed life-threatening and then arrested for homicide in connection with Jao's death. G1 reported that Krupp, who'd once dated influencer Sarah Poncio, was known for speeding his motorbike on the weekends despite having no license. As of the latest information available on the matter, the case was ongoing. Number 15. Corrisa Sucanick and Brian Morrow. In the early hours of October the 25th of 2025, officers in Scottsdale, Arizona, responded to reports of a burglary at Mon Cherie restaurant in Old Town. Surveillance footage reviewed by investigators showed that Corrisa Sucanick and Brian Morrow, aged 30 and 39 respectively, had forced entry into the closed eatery. At some point, they put the burglary on hold and had intimate relations among the floral decorations near the outdoor patio. They got caught in the moment. There's roses everywhere. Maybe it was kind of romantic, but modern-day Bonnie and Clyde, the Mon Cherie owner later told a media outlet. Once done with their lovemaking, the couple thrashed the establishment and stole approximately $450 in cash, an iPhone, and a bottle of liquor. Surveillance video of the burglary and the preceding intimate encounter was shared with the public to help identify the suspects. The authorities arrested Sucanick on November the 3rd in Scottsdale and Morrow the following day in Phoenix. Both were booked into the Maricopa County Jail on third-degree burglary charges, and Morrow also faced a count of possession of burglary tools. Police noted neither suspect was charged over the recorded amorous activities, as those actions did not meet criteria for criminal charges. Number 14. Thomas Plamberger. Austrian couple Thomas Plamberger and Kerstin Gertner trekked to the summit of Großglockner Mountain, Austria's highest peak, on January the 19th of 2025. Plamberger was an experienced mountaineer, but Gertner was not on the same level. The couple encountered difficulties with their descent from 8:50 p.m. onwards and made camp less than 150 feet from the summit. 39-year-old Plamberger didn't make an emergency call, nor did he signal a police helicopter when it flew in their area roughly 2 hours later. He eventually called Alpine police at 1:35 a.m. and then put his phone on silent. Roughly 30 minutes later, he left his girlfriend unprotected, exhausted, hypothermic, and disoriented, and began making his way down the mountain. Plamberger neglected to even cover Gertner with available emergency blankets. A trail camera recorded him at around 2:30 a.m. and he reached out to emergency services again about half an hour later. The light from the couple's camp near the Großglockner summit, captured against the backdrop of a starry sky, was visible in webcam footage. It was at the camp that 33-year-old Gertner, a self-described winter child, froze to death alone and helpless. According to a statement from the Innsbruck Public Prosecutor's Office, Plamberger was charged with manslaughter by gross negligence in connection with her death. Due to his experience with high-altitude climbs, he was considered the de facto guide and thus responsible for his girlfriend's safety. He'd made several errors, such as starting the climb too late, failing to ensure Gertner had appropriate gear, and failing to alert emergency services before ultimately abandoning the woman. His trial was scheduled for February of 2026. Number 13. Incidents at Atlanta Airport. After buying a plane ticket in cash at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport in Atlanta, Georgia, a woman removed all of her clothes and began walking naked through Terminal B in the spring of 2017. The unnamed woman, who was only wearing a pair of flip-flops, was recorded running wild and flashing fellow travelers. At one point, she bent down, spread her butt cheeks, and said, "Everybody look at how." The woman then repeatedly shouted, "I don't give." She was eventually stopped by law enforcement and taken to Grady Memorial Hospital for a psychiatric evaluation. In 2018, at the same airport, Jerian Jones climbed a fence, ran across an active runway in his underwear, and climbed onto the wing of a Delta aircraft that was taxiing after landing. 19-year-old Jones pounded on the windows as passengers inside watched on before he was arrested for criminal trespassing, public indecency, and obstruction of law enforcement officers. Number 12. Michael Millett. On January the 13th of 2025, Michael Millett was riding his bike through a neighborhood in DeLand, Florida, when he encountered two dogs. He reportedly stopped to pet them, at which point they became aggressive. The loose dogs relentlessly bit into Millett's body. His mother was reportedly present as the mauling unfolded and reportedly jumped on top of him in an effort to shield him. The boy suffered 12 bite wounds and a broken neck. He subsequently succumbed to his injuries. The animals involved in the incident were a pit bull owned by 31-year-old Amanda Franco and a Catahoula leopard dog owned by her roommate, Brandy Hodel, aged 40. Due to limitations in Florida law, only Franco faced a second-degree misdemeanor charge under the Dangerous Dog Act, punishable by up to 60 days in jail and a $500 fine. The act under which Franco was charged involved the ownership of a dog that was not previously declared as dangerous and that caused great bodily harm or death. Hodel was not charged for the attack itself. Updates from August of 2025, however, indicated that each woman was additionally charged with tampering with evidence, a third-degree felony. Following an investigation by Volusia County law enforcement, both women were determined to have intentionally deleted messages to a neighbor about their dog's violent tendencies and the fact that the pets were on the loose on the night that Millett was fatally mauled. The women were arrested and faced up to 5 years in state prison. Number 11. Umar Gul. In January of 2024, Umar Gul was jailed for 16 months in England after previously pleading guilty to 5 counts of dangerous driving at Preston Crown Court. Lancashire police had launched an investigation into his outrageous driving after clips of him speeding surfaced on social media. In one of the videos, captured by a friend in the back seat and simultaneously recorded by a front passenger as well, Gul was behind the wheel of a high-performance Mercedes C63. Gul spoke to his passenger about his car and then about a red Audi RS3 that he was gearing up to race. The two drivers waited for a light to turn green and then they set off, reaching dizzying speeds on a dual carriageway in Lancashire. During the race, Gul accelerated to over 150 miles per hour, an aspect confirmed by his passenger. The police's Vehicle Data Investigation Unit compiled a dossier of evidence against Gul as part of Operation Snap, which enabled the public to submit incriminating footage for them to review. The authorities learned that Gul had engaged in similar dangerous driving while operating other high-performance cars, including a Nissan GTR and a BMW M135i. Number 10. Victoria Hidalgo. On Thanksgiving night in 2021, deputies from the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office in Florida went to the home of 37-year-old Victoria Hidalgo, following reports that she'd been drinking and shot a gun in her home. Deputies were granted access to the residence, whereupon they found Hidalgo's baby unsupervised in his crib and a bullet lodged in the front door. The child was placed in the care of a family member as the authorities searched for Hidalgo. She was later found in the passenger seat of a car that had been pulled over by police. The male driver told deputies he had just met her at the Paddy Wagon Irish pub and was driving her home because she was intoxicated. He had no knowledge of her situation at home. Hidalgo was severely inebriated, and the authorities determined that after randomly firing the gun, she left her baby alone and went out drinking. Hidalgo, who smiled widely in her mugshot, was charged with child neglect. Number 9. Ratchadech Wongtabut. In the early hours of September the 17th of 2019, Thai model Fatima Lunlabel Nora Van Pifat was found dead in the reception area of the Casa Condo Ratchadech building in the Talat Phlu area of Bangkok. 25-year-old Nora Van Pifat made her living as a pretty, a term used to describe women hired to pose with various products or at events for promotional purposes. Evidence indicated that Nora Van Pifat had been severely intoxicated before ending up at Casa Condo. Clips showed her passed out at a private party in Nonthaburi, where she'd been hired to serve drinks. She'd previously messaged a friend to say that she'd been drinking since midday. On the night of September the 16th of 2019, Nora Van Pifat was taken by 24-year-old male model Ratchadech Wongtabut, who'd attended the same party. he brought her to his Casa Condo apartment. Hours later, he was caught on CCTV dragging Noura Van Pifat's limp body through a lobby. The man was holding her by the arms as he pulled her across the floor. He then lifted her in a bear hug and placed her in the elevator. Noura Van Pifat exhibited no emotion throughout the footage. Wongtabut placed her on a couch in the reception area and simply walked away. An autopsy revealed she died from extreme alcohol intoxication, citing a blood alcohol concentration of 418 milligrams per 100 milliliters. Wongtabut was subsequently arrested and the case became highly publicized due in part to the man's social media posts in which he'd boasted about his bedroom conquests, including as he allegedly had Noura Van Pifat in his room. He was arrested, and there was initial suspicion that he drugged Noura Van Pifat with GHB and assaulted her, but the police found evidence of neither. The male model claimed that he was merely trying to help her and that he had no idea she was dead. He was ultimately convicted of abduction with intent of committing an indecent act, illegal detention, and molestation. Wongtabut was consequently jailed for 8 years. The case brought significant public scrutiny to the unregulated pretty industry in Thailand, prompting discussions about the need for better legal protections for women in similar service roles. Many of them often found themselves in situations beyond their control, from being forced to drink large amounts of alcoholic beverages to physical and verbal attacks. Several other people who attended the party, including the homeowner, Chayafon Pana, were also found guilty of involvement in Noura Van Pifat's death and were each jailed for over 5 years. Number 8. Stanley Kobierowski. In July of 2008, Stanley Kobierowski of North Providence, Rhode Island, was arrested for drunk driving after he crashed his car into a highway message board on Interstate 95. When police arrived at the crash site, Kobierowski had difficulty exiting his vehicle and initially refused to move, forcing troopers to carry him to the breakdown lane. When asked for his license, he mistakenly handed an officer a credit card. He was held in hospital for 2 days before he was sober enough to be arraigned. Kobierowski's level of drunkenness was the highest ever recorded in Rhode Island for a person who wasn't dead. His BAC was recorded at 0.491%, more than 6 times the legal limit of 0.08% in Rhode Island. Following a plea deal, he was sentenced to 1 year of probation along with a $500 fine, 40 hours of community service, and the 1 year loss of his driver's license. Number 7. Javan Lee. Leading up to October of 2024, Javan Lee and 48-year-old Corey Graham had been involved in various disputes at the shared house where they lived on Sussex Road in Harrow, northwest London. On October the 30th, following an argument over household mess, Graham contacted the property's management to complain about Lee. Minutes later, Lee stabbed him at least a dozen times in the property's front garden. A third tenant called the emergency services and Graham was rushed to the hospital where he died the following day. Immediately after the attack, Lee was captured on CCTV as he walked down nearby residential streets in broad daylight, drenched in blood and still carrying the knife. Detective Sergeant Matt Russell later described Lee's actions as showing cowardice and contempt towards his victim, highlighting that the CCTV footage graphically demonstrates his brazenness. Lee disposed of the murder weapon in nearby Pinnerview before returning to the house where he put his bloodied clothes into the wash machine. When first interviewed by the police at the scene, he gave them a fake name and denied involvement. Lee was told to wait in a bedroom, but he fled through a window and remained on the run for 6 hours before returning to the property. He was arrested and the ensuing investigation proved beyond reasonable doubt that he'd killed Graham. Lee was found guilty of murder by a jury at Southwark Crown Court on December the 8th of 2025 and he faced a life sentence. Number 6. Camia Gamet. On April the 16th of 2014, Camia Gamet was sentenced in Jackson County Circuit Court, Michigan, to life in prison without the possibility of parole following her conviction for the 2012 stabbing death of her boyfriend Marcel Hill. A jury had found her guilty of first-degree murder in March of that year. She and Hill had been involved in a volatile relationship and the victim's family had warned Gamet would eventually kill him. The 31-year-old previously hit Hill with a hammer and stabbed him, puncturing his lung, injuries for which Hill did not cooperate with police at the time. In a final bout of unhinged violence, she killed him with nearly a dozen knife strikes. During the sentencing hearing, Gamet repeatedly rolled her eyes, snickered, and interjected comments while members of Hill's family spoke about the victim's life and the impact of the crime. Jackson County Circuit Judge John McBain erupted after losing patience with her courtroom conduct. He warned Gamet, "You're going to shut your mouth or I'm going to have some duct tape put on it," before detailing the brutality of the attack and the number of wounds Hill had suffered. McBain described the case as one of the worst cold-blooded murders he had ever seen. The visibly enraged judge told Gamet, "I agree with the family. I hope you die in prison as well." Referencing Michigan's lack of capital punishment, McBain added, "You know, if this was a death penalty state, you'd be getting the chair." Number 5. Elizabeth and Rex Jernigan. Louisiana married couple Elizabeth and Rex Jernigan, aged 33 and 35 respectively, were arrested in Houma in the fall of 2017 following reports of lewd activity at a public library. The authorities learned that the couple had recorded themselves having intercourse in the library and then uploaded the footage to Pornhub. On the platform, Elizabeth was known as Layla Divine while Rex went by Sexy Beast 82. Between them, the couple had thousands of subscribers and over 1.7 million views. While creating their adult content, they'd had relations or engaged in intimate acts at various public locations throughout the city of Houma and Terrebonne Parish over the course of several months. The businesses included the Southland Mall in Houma, a local Walmart and a Burger King. Several of their videos were secured by the police as evidence. In 2019, the couple pleaded guilty to obscenity charges and received 6-month suspended jail sentences and 2 years of supervised probation, along with community service and being ordered to cover $1,000 in court costs. Number 4. Anna Saparina. Russian influencer wannabe Anna Saparina became the subject of an investigation in December of 2025 after a sickening video was discovered online. The 36-year-old recorded herself placing her young son, Stas, inside an industrial-sized vacuum bag. Saparina then counted down and said, "Let's go," as she quickly zipped the bag shut and used a vacuum cleaner hose to suck the air out. Stas, in a panic, cried out to her, but his voice was muffled by the collapsing plastic. The mother then opened the bag and Stas, visibly relieved, grinned and gave a thumbs up as he regained his breath. The video was captured while the boy was homesick, and Saparina, who claimed that the stunt was meant to stave off boredom, shared it with the caption, "This was the 3rd week of the sick leave." The aspiring influencer had several thousand followers and she uploaded the clip expecting it would boost her likes. The footage went viral, but it had the adverse effect, as it drew strong criticism from viewers who accused her of child abuse and endangering the boy's life. Updates indicated that the investigation was ongoing and that Saparina had switched her social media accounts to private. Number 3. Luqmaan Khan. On the night of November the 24th of 2025, Luqmaan Khan, a University of Delaware student, was approached by Newcastle County police officers conducting a routine after-hours property check in Canby Park West. Khan was found sitting in a parked Toyota Tacoma in the closed park. He appeared visibly nervous and became uncooperative when officers asked him to exit the vehicle. During a subsequent search, police located a .357 caliber Glock handgun outfitted with a brace conversion kit, 4 loaded 27-round magazines and body armor. Also recovered was a composition notebook with handwritten notes detailing weapons and combat tactics, including a map of the University of Delaware Police Department. The notes listed entry and exit points and references to kill all, martyrdom, in addition to referencing at least one university police officer by name. After his arrest, Khan reportedly told the authorities that becoming a martyr was one of the greatest things you can do. The FBI took over the investigation. Federal prosecutors charged Khan with illegal possession of a machine gun, among other weapons offenses. A subsequent search of his Wilmington residence yielded additional firearms, including a scoped rifle, another handgun with an illegal machine gun conversion device, extended ammunition magazines, hollow point rounds, and a tactical vest. None of the weapons were registered. Khan was born in Afghanistan and was a refugee in Pakistan before moving to the US in his youth. The student was described as being friendly in the past but had recently become standoffish. Federal court filings noted there were no known immediate threats to the broader campus community, but the detailed writings and materials found in his possession indicated intent to target campus law enforcement. Number 2. Alvin Foy III and Jahmere Manning. On May the 3rd of 2021, New York teenager China Forney was mere weeks from graduating from the Albany Leadership Charter High School. The 18-year-old was on Essex Street in Albany when two youths unleashed a hail of bullets on a crowd. Forney, who was not the intended target, suffered a critical gunshot wound to her back and was pronounced dead in a local hospital. The incident sent shockwaves across the community. Forney was a track and field athlete and a dance team captain who planned to enroll in nursing school. A large memorial was created at the scene of the shooting, and a street in Albany was eventually renamed to honor her memory. In the immediate aftermath, over 30 shell casings fired from multiple weapons were recovered from the bullet-riddled scene, and the shooters were identified as Alvin Foy III and Jahmere Manning. Both men were part of the 50 gang, a name referencing their propensity for high-capacity magazines, and Foy was reported as being the gang's leader. At the time, they faced attempted murder charges in a separate shooting incident that had occurred on Livingston Avenue in March of 2021. 2 months prior to Forney's death, the duo had shot into a car and injured a 27-year-old man in the shoulder and hand. Their target in the May 3rd shooting was a gangland rival, and they completely disregarded the presence of others on Essex Street as they opened fire. Foy and Manning were charged with Forney's killing. Manning ultimately pleaded guilty to second-degree murder in October of 2022 and was handed a sentence of 20 years to life. Foy went to trial, and in April of 2023 he was convicted of second-degree murder, attempted murder, and weapons charges. During his July sentencing, Foy was captured on camera as he burst into laughter while Forney's sister was giving her impact statement, infuriating Judge Roger McDonough. The judge berated him, stating that his reaction was condemnable, regardless of whether he admitted to the crime or not. Foy interrupted the judge, insisting that he'd been wrongly convicted. McDonough warned him that it was not his time to speak, and after another interruption, ordered that he be removed from the courtroom. Foy remarked, "I ain't worried about it," as he was led away, and one officer had to pull up his sagging pants before he was out of the courtroom. He was given the maximum sentence of 25 years to life in prison. Number 1. Mateusz Hepa. 18-year-old Wiktoria Kozilska was returning home from a party in the city of Katowice, Poland, on an August night in 2023. Around the same time, Mateusz Hepa, who was also in his late teens, finished his shift at a local car repair shop. He approached Kozilska and invited her to his home, where they talked for some time before she eventually fell asleep. In the moments that followed, Hepa sat on her chest and used a rope to strangle her to death. He then wrapped her body in plastic and a blanket. The young man called the police on himself, saying, "I felt the need to kill." At the police station, he confessed to the murder and the horrific circumstances under which it occurred. Hepa said that he'd been contemplating killing for some time and even went out with the intention of finding a victim. It would emerge that as Kozilska slept, Hepa decided her fate with a coin toss, something that he would often do when faced with a difficult decision. He told the police, "It came up heads, so I killed her. If it had been tails, she would probably still be alive." Hepa confessed, "I chose strangulation because then there is no blood. She was trying to breathe. She had no strength to fight. She tried to resist, but it was too late." Hepa admitted that after beating and strangling Kozilska, he removed her clothes and had relations with her dead body. He thought about burning the remains, but ultimately decided to surrender. His case was ongoing as of the latest updates, and he faced a potential life sentence. Thanks for watching. What is the most embarrassing thing that ever happened to you in a public setting? Let us know in the comments section below.